Today, a kitten is going to help show us where all of this starts and how that has everything to do with you. I'm Stephen Rodi. This is Course Correction, where men find their way back to themselves. I want to ask you something before we go anywhere else today. This isn't for you to answer out loud. It is a moment for you to consider. Where does a man start? Where did you start? I'm not talking about where you were born, your family, your town, or even the year. I mean before any of that. The you before anything had touched you yet. Take a second and feel for that answer. Can you find it? Okay, now hold that thought. A kitten is born. It doesn't matter where. Maybe it is in the safety of a warm garage, or underneath someone's porch, or on the concrete behind a dumpster in the alley. It doesn't matter. What matters is how that kitten is in those first moments of life. It's not scared or brave. It doesn't understand trust or distrust. It has no knowledge of its parents, where it was born, or how the world will shape it into the cat it will become. It just arrives. Clean, innocent, perfect, and hungry. You arrive the same way. Clean, innocent, perfect, and hungry. This was your beginning. This is where everything that you are, your identity, your personality, your sense of humor, and your capacity to love, this is where all that began. In that moment, you were infinite possibilities because the influences from the world had not begun to shape you yet. As you sit here listening, this is still who you are. That is where we are going today. You see, that kitten didn't know or think about what it needed to become. It just became it. There was no conscious decision where it chose caution over trust. The environment, the garage, the backyard, the streets, wherever it was, created the conditions that required it to adapt. That part of the kitten responded to the conditions and made the necessary adjustments to help keep it alive. You did the same thing. You adapted and made necessary adjustments. We spent an entire episode talking about the mechanisms in your brain that helped you do this. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. 4 instinctual reflexes wired to keep you alive. Every animal on Earth has the same wiring. The instinct fires and the reflexes take over. That wiring, that structure, formed out of the only material on hand, the threat and whatever worked effectively against that threat. This occurred because part of you knew that what was happening needed a safe adaptation. Something had to organize and create the structure around that instinct. It had to become the self that ran the reflex, wore the armor, and built the shield. Psychologists call that structure the ego. We're not talking about ego in the way we describe someone's personality. This isn't arrogance or swagger. In its oldest sense, the ego is just part of the self that organizes around a threat. It's not the villain of your story. It's an essential survival tool, and it's what has kept you alive. That's why the question, where does a man start, may not sound like a real question at first. It sounds like a threat. Remember, the ego's entire job is protecting the structure it built. So when you ask what's underneath it, that structure reads the question as an attack. The same way the brainstem reads a look, a tone, or a silence as danger, decades after the danger's gone. But the ego is not the man. It is not who you are, and it never was. It's just what survival looks like once you're awake enough to know it's happening to you. You've heard me say the shields don't just protect, but they also blind. They have been protecting you for so long that you can't see the world clearly through them. And because of that, you can't see yourself clearly through them either. That's not new information at this point. That's the whole dilemma we've excavated if you've been listening these last 9 episodes. What's new is this. The man on the inside of that shield isn't a stranger. He's not a self-improvement project. He's not someone you have to create in order to survive, or some future version of you that doesn't exist yet. The man on the inside is the one who was already there before the reflex ever needed a self to organize around, and has always been there. The man on the inside is you, the real you. Who you were is who you are. You haven't disappeared, waiting to be rebuilt from nothing. You are still here, buried under something that was only ever doing its job to help you survive. This moment that I am asking you to explore, to look at yourself through your heart, is essential because this is where your answers exist. They are deep inside us and they are connected to our choice to change. Choice. This is the crux of everything we are talking about and is the driving force inside course correction. Your choice to find answers and to shift your life means everything because without it, you will never consider that there's a different path that reveals your truth to guide you forward. I know when that moment happened for me. I knew it because I couldn't see myself in the mirror, with or without my eyes closed. I felt it in my heart that day when my son's eyes showed me that he was afraid of me. I remember because in that moment, I recognized my cycle of searching without any real direction. So I always came back to the same point, the same realization. I'm stuck. I remember then realizing that I was done with that cycle. I was fed up. It was time to find new information to help me find my way forward, out of my rut. I didn't know how, but I knew that if I didn't, then I would possibly remain lost and disconnected for the rest of my life. That was it. I chose to change. So try this at some point this week. Stand in front of a mirror and look at yourself the way you'd look at anyone else. Just look straight on at all of you. Then, close your eyes and ask yourself, who do I see now? Don't reach for the answer with your eyes open because they're wired into the same system we've spent 9 episodes describing. They're useful and honest about the threat, but definitely not built for this particular question. Close your eyes and see who's still there once they're shut. That's the practice. Nothing to fix, nothing to write down. Just sense who you are since your beginning. Learning and exploring what we are talking about here is not something you want to hear through a microphone. This is something you want to discover, and it usually requires someone's guidance. This podcast can help you recognize the shape of what you built, but moving it out of the way long enough to see what it's been covering, that's the work you and I do together. That's core truths. Who you were is who you are. If you know someone who needs to hear this, please send it to them. You can find me at yourcoretruths.com. I'm Stephen Rodi. This is Course Correction.